Yo, peace. This is the God, the Intuitive Hand. And today, welcome to another episode of the Akashic Sketches, where we dive into the third eye to find our own answers. And today we're going to be talking about the science of mental loops. Let's dive into it. Mental loops. As I dive into my meditative space right now, I am now tapping into my third eye. And what's coming to me is what mental loops look like. What do they look like in the thought form space? Kind of look like chopped up pieces of noodles. Or like, I remember when I was a kid, used to eat, what they used to call it, not SpaghettiOs, but like the alphabet soup. Or like just chopped up pieces of noodles. Or if you've ever had quinoa, if you've ever eaten quinoa, how quinoa can come in these little small spirals. This is what these mental loops are coming to me as. They have this kind of shape to them. What is a mental loop? Mental loops are pretty much thoughts that don't really have they don't have no ending. They're thoughts that just continue to loop around in repetition due to constantly thinking about it, the mental energy that they're given. And the more and more mental energy that the loop is given, the stronger and stronger the loop gets. So what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing these are what mental loops can look like. And then if we dive a little bit deeper into it, and let's look at it on a deeper microscopic level as I'm dialing my third eye into it. What does it look like from the side? These thoughts that constantly get replayed. So the mental loop has, if we dial into it, if we turn it sideways, it has sides and it has sides to it. It has different sections, the ingredients of the mental loop. The loop pretty much circles constantly in a spiral, but it never actually resolves itself. It never comes to any concrete conclusion or ending. It's constantly replaying over and over, whatever the thought might have been to the particular individual's mind. Could have been something of embarrassment, could have been some level of anxiety, some incident or situation where somebody felt some type of way about something, and it can cause the mental looping of it in the mind. And so what happens is every time energy is given to it, because energy is food for the thought, every time energy is given to it, any form of energy, any form of thought, as we talked about on the last episode, energy and what energy can look like, right? As it's given energy. And the energy thought wave or the thought form itself from the energy of the thought form has a pattern. And when it is given energy to feed off of, what happens is it becomes stronger. And when it becomes stronger, it gets as it becomes stronger, it gets more difficult to release it from the mind without any external intervention. This is where you have to come in with some form of techniques in order to get this out of the mind. This is the person here, and these are all of the thought forms that are surrounding the person's 6th and 7th chakra region, right? These thought forms are caught up in the 6th and the 7th chakra. and they're feeding into the mind. They're getting caught up in the mental plane. And we talked about the mental plane on the first episode. And it's being funneled into the auric atmosphere, the auric presence of the person. And so now your aura begins to attract these types of thoughts, because these are the types of thoughts that are being habitually practiced through thought from the individual, whether this is conscious or unconscious. Oftentimes this is an unconscious situation. So our goal is to make these thought loops conscious, so that we can better choose what thoughts we want to entertain and what thoughts we want to get rid of and destroy. And so the thought loop in and of itself, it feeds. And so as it feeds, let's dive a little bit deeper. We're going to now zoom in even deeper into the to the thought form, to the mental loop. The mental loop, at this point in time, depending upon the nature of the thought, if it's a negative thought, it begins to grow. What's coming to me now, it has teeth. If we was to zoom into it on a microscopic level, it would look like some form of parasite, some form of a very grotesque or scary looking entity. You know, like some of those types of creatures that be down all the way at the bottom of the ocean, right? Some of those bioluminescent creatures that is so dark down there, they have adapted and created different ways for their bodies to adapt to the darkness. Some of those creatures, you know, some of those fish and other creatures look very, very scary. And so this is kind of what the thought loop could look like on a microscopic level. It has teeth, because the teeth symbolize it feeding off of the individual's mental energy, now siphoning the mental energy. And the more energy it siphons, the more mentally drained the person could feel. And once a person is mentally drained, your mental defenses are pretty low. And so now you're ripe and subject to all other forms of mental psychic attacks that could now come upon you. So as we're examining these thought loops, we have to really get to the nitty gritty of, you know, what's the base of it. Now, the thought loop is the energy that is usually formulated. When we look at the thought loop consists of the thought itself, which is the first part of it. This is the thought section of the loop. Then in the thought section of the loop, we come into the middle section of the loop, which is the emotions. Because from thought, the thought triggers the emotion. Once you have a thought, it can trigger an emotion or a feeling or a vibration from that thought. And then from there, it circles right back around to more thinking. And from there, it begins to create a loop from thought, feeling to more thought. And then back to feeling, and then back to thought, and then back to feeling, and then back to thought. So then you get caught in the cycle of thinking, and then get caught in the cycle of the emotion that the thought brought about, and then you get trapped into more thinking. And so therefore that energy that is like that becomes it's like a sight. That's why these are spirals. They're like siphons, almost like hurricanes. Like a hurricane, you know, like when you see a hurricane, like the way it's in that spiral is siphoning off, you know what I'm saying, your energy in that way. You revisit, you replay it, and then it locks in. So what a thought that might have just came at one time in one moment, by entertaining it, it began to drag itself out, and it became more than what it needed to be due to the constant energy that was given to it. And now that one moment now has dragged on to days, months, even years of the entertaining of this thought. Now imagine a thought form that has been feeding off your energy for years. Imagine how strong it is. You see what I'm saying? Imagine how strong that thought form can be. Now, as we're dealing with this, to deal with the energy spheres, the funneling. This is exactly the energy and how the energy is looking. And this is how it's coming to me as it looks to my third eye as I'm examining this. And this goes right into the head. And then this becomes the makeup. This becomes the makeup of the person's thinking. And see, this is how we ultimately begin to create and we create entities from this. This is how entities are created from thought. Thought is powerful. Mental energy is powerful. Psychic energy is powerful. So, and everybody on the planet is psychic. We all are psychic because the psychic abilities are extensions of the physical ability, the physical senses. You know, the psychic senses are extensions of sight. The physical sight is an extension of being able to hear. It's an extension of being able to smell, taste, and touch, plus more. So the psychic senses they're the etheric or the energetic, the extrasensory, the subtle perception on an energetic level. Our senses have the extension to be able to go into energetic spaces and receive information. Every human being has this capability, not just certain people or quote unquote special people. All people have this ability. The thing is that we are not taught about this so that it can make us more susceptible to negative thought mental loops so that the mind control can take place. And mind control or programming or conditioning takes place on multiple levels in society, on multiple levels. And so if people knew more about these types of things, then we wouldn't be as susceptible to them, obviously. So this is what's coming to me now. Going deeper into what we're talking about. What one focuses on strengthens the loop. So we have to be mindful about what it is that we're focusing on. Focus in and of itself. But how do you become aware of your mind? How do you become aware of the thoughts that you're entertaining? Well, having a meditation practice is a great way to start so that you can be able to put yourself in presence and slow yourself down and be able to just be a witness, study and be an observer, a neutral observer of the types of thoughts that enter into your mind on a day-to-day basis. That's one way to start so that we can become more consciously aware of our thought forms and thought patterns. And then we can be able to take inventory of our thoughts. Many of us have these thought forms. These thought forms could come in the form of fear, right? These thought forms could come in the form of, regret. Mistakes that you might have made. And therefore, it has created a thought form or a thought loop. you keep playing that mistake over and over and over. Right? It could come in the form of anger. You know, something that you're angry about, something that you're holding on to. And each thought form comes in all different shapes, sizes, and colors because they're all of different frequencies, especially when they're backed by such emotions such as fear, anger, or regret, or anything of that sort. So they're all coming from different angles and have different frequencies that they're operating on. But these are the emotions become the energy that basically feeds them, right? After that, after these types of thoughts have been entertained to such a degree, what also could happen is the identification with the thoughts. Now we are identifying with the thought to the point where now you feel as though you are that thought. And see, then that's where the thought itself begins to take on a high level of intelligence to try to hijack the mood and actions of the person. I think every person can relate to this to some degree. We've all had thoughts and emotions that just kept looping and looping, and they affected your mood. You know, it could have been death. Somebody passed away, and you know, the way that you thought about death or your understanding of death put you in a certain vibration around it. You know, see, everything is perception here on the mental plane. This is why we must give our minds a lot of attention and a lot of training so that we can be able to take the mind and take ownership and control of it. And then at some point, you just pretty much become the loop. You become the thought loop after that, or after this consistent level of interaction with it. You eventually become the loop itself, and you embody it, and then it enters into the body, also the mind, and then you have these again, these parasitic entities now operating in and through your mental and psychic space, but they're also in your they have now also entered into your aura, and they have made a home in your aura, and they don't want to leave easily. You know, similar to, like, you know, when you was a kid and you was outside and you used to be outside playing, and let's say you ran into a big rock, right? And then you turn that big rock over. It was a feast of bugs and water bugs, ants, and, you know, crickets and all types of critters down hiding underneath that rock. But when you opened it up, when you removed the rock and you exposed it, they got to scattering. That's exactly what is taking place on the astral plane, the mental plane, and the metaphysical planes before they get to the third dimensional plane. This is exactly a lot of things on planet Earth that we see are just extensions or copies of what's taking place on other realms and dimensions, or in other different, you know, planes of existence. So if you that's why studying nature gives us a great idea psychically of what is going on in other realms, on other planes of existence. Studying nature. You see, again, these entities, they teeth, they're feeders, they're parasites. Study all bugs, study insects, study particularly these parasitic insects. Insects like mosquitoes, and how they need to suck on your blood in order for them to, you know, study those in the summertime. Study how they move and operate. Leeches. Study all of the parasitic insects and how they move and operate. It'll give us a great understanding, or a better understanding of, again, what we're dealing with in these other realms and dimensions. spiral energy. We're studying energy in the form of spirals and what spirals do. Not that spirals are negative or positive. Everything has positive and negative to it. Everything has a positive existence and everything also has a negative existence. There's always a positive and negative to everything. It's the law of polarity. And so you have positive things that spiral, and then you also have negative spirals. Our job is to pay attention and be mindful of what the spiral is striving to show us. And this is more of a up-close bird's eye view of the mental loop. That's the original thought. And this is now the emotional section of the loop. And then it goes right back to thought again. This is the feedback loop, aka trap, thought trap. The thought trap that we must be mindful of. So yeah, this is a breakdown on what's coming to me on the third eye. The third eye plane is what's entering into my space as I look into studying mental loops, what they are, what causes them, and how to eradicate them. And so breaking the loop is from awareness. We must break the loop through awareness. Awareness allows for us to break the loop. Observation slows it down, and eventually we can eradicate it by becoming conscious of the loops. The moment you see the loop, you're no longer inside the loop. So thank you for tapping in to another episode of the Akashic Sketches, where we dive into the third eye to find our own answers. Any answer that you want is inside of you. The whole universe exists within. And anything that you would seek outwardly to find exists first within you. Externally is just validation of it, but it already exists within us. We have access to everything we want to know, and it is our job and responsibility to go get it. And so again, this is the God, the intuitive hand. Thank you for tapping into another episode of the Akashic Sketches. And yeah, this sketch here will be available as a print coming soon. So if you would like to get a copy of it for your own notes and your own personal study, it'll definitely be available coming soon. I'll keep you guys posted. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook Threads as Sincere's Philosophies. And yeah, let's keep it going. Today we talked about what is a loop, how does it start, how does it sustain itself, and how it affects the person and how to break it. So yeah, make sure you keep meditating. And yeah, let's keep moving it forward. Peace.